How to use the iPhone 17's camera system. Now in this tutorial, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about this dual 48 megapixel 4K 60 capable recording camera, and the front facing camera is 18 megapixels center stage. So first, let's talk about how to quickly get into this camera. You can see the 17 now does have always on display. This one is pretty obvious. You can just hold down here, long press, and you're going to be right into the camera system itself. In addition, you could swipe to the left to get into the camera. And my favorite way is to go ahead and click the camera control button, because if you are bringing this phone out of your pocket, that camera control, you can be right in and never miss a moment. Just one press and you're right in there. Now, another way you can actually use this camera is you can go ahead and click the action button if you have that enabled. Let me show you how to enable the camera system on the action button. So go into your settings, scroll to where it says action button, and you could see it is enabled on my phone right now. So if you have it on flashlight or something else, bring it over here to camera. So when we go ahead now, I can just click the action button and hold it long press and I could be in there. However, I don't find that to be that useful because the camera control button right here is already dedicated for that purpose. So there's no real reason to have the action button as a camera. But there are 4 different ways to launch that camera right there. You can also enable an accessibility back tap for that as well to launch it, but I tend to prefer to have the camera labeled or put right here on the dock all the way to the right, because I am right-handed, so it's the easiest to find it. If you are left-handed, you might want to bring it over here for an easy press onto the camera. So those are the multiple ways to get in. Let's go ahead and quickly and look at what settings are available before we hop into the camera app itself. Let's go over here to camera and settings and talk about each. So under camera control, you can go ahead and put camera launch, and you can change those apps if you want, but you should probably leave it there. Now, a single click is going to open the camera, or you can set it to a double click. You could require the screen on, and you could also do camera adjustments and adjust what adjustments you want available for the camera control. We're going to show you how to use the camera control in a bit, but these are the different options. You have exposure, depth, zoom, and you can move them around so it's easier to scroll to the ones that you prefer the most, whether you want it to be the zoom, the styles, or the tones. So that's pretty neat, but again, this camera is still a little bit more advanced than prior versions. Down here in accessibility, you can change the press force. So if you want the camera to actually be a little bit of a firmer press, you can try it out there. Or you can do lighter. I tend to leave it at default because it kind of just seems to work good with the medium press, and things just work pretty fine. You can also change the press speed as well if you would like to do that. So mess around with that and kind of find your preferences for that. Let's get out of there and let's scroll down more. Now, they do have different photographic styles, which are going to give you different types of shots. And this is a very exclusive iPhone thing. There are filters on other phones, but this is very, very exclusive to iPhone, having these different styles. You have gold, rose gold, bright, neutral tones, and cool rose. If you go over here, we're going to just leave it on standard. I'll show you how to customize it in the camera itself. But you can also find your own tone if you want and just kind of figure out what works for you the best. For me, I just leave it on standard, and then if I need an extra photographic style, I will change it. Coming down a bit more, let's talk about the video modes. 720 is pretty old. 1080-30 is pretty standard. 1080-60 is what I'm recording at. It's a pretty lightweight storage option, but still a smooth and crisp looking video. 4K 24 is going to be more of a cinematic, slower, movie-like look. 4K 30 is going to be a standard but very sharp 4 times a 1080 video. So it's going to be it's not going to be super smooth, but it's going to be very, very crisp on 4K 30. And then the highest option is going to be the 4K 60. Now 4K 60 is like this video, but just sharper at the same time. Most people are not looking at these videos on a 4K crispy screen because a lot of people watch videos on tablets and phones, which are most of the time up to 2K. They're not really 4K screens. But definitely, you're going to see that as you go down the video options, this camera is definitely going to take up more space. As we scroll down more, you're going to find more recording video options. And then you'll see they also have spatial audio for things like Vision Pro, as well as the AirPods if you want to record sound like that. You have stereo sound or mono sound. Now, most phones are going to record in stereo out of the box, but they have spatial audio because the other Apple products play well with that. Under formats, you'll find different capture modes as well, including a 24 megapixel shot or a 12 megapixel shot on that Fusion camera. Now, if we scroll out of there and we go down, you have different preserved settings. Now, these are basically going to hold the setting where it was. I tend to leave them off for this video because we are trying to showcase the modes and we don't want them to switch out. But you have action mode, live photo mode, night mode, exposure adjustments, macro controls, creative controls, photographic styles, and camera mode. So whichever ones you want to preserve and leave on, go ahead and click those on. You're going to be pretty happy there. As we scroll down, you'll see more different framing options like grid, mirroring the front camera, different indicators as well. So again, this camera is very well loaded. Let me get back in the camera area. Very well loaded with the features. Even a level for those of you who need a leveler. So that's pretty much it in there. It does have plenty to get your camera system going, but one of the things with this camera phone is that you do have to use the settings app to get all of the fine-tuned controls. Now, once you're in the camera, of course, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, you don't need a tutorial to see a photo and a video. But one thing about iOS 26 is it could kind of look to the consumer like, what happened to the other features? Well, you just got to hold these down now and kind of swipe over to get to the next one. So you have portrait, spatial, panoramic, photo, video, cinematic, slow motion, time lapse. We'll start in the photo modes and kind of do a rundown of this. Let's go ahead and click up here on the 6 dots up here, and you're going to see multiple different features right here. We'll start with the flash. So with the A, that signifies auto mode, and then that's going to leave the flash on right there. Now, do keep in mind, a lot of times this will just kind of stay on, so make sure you turn that off before your next photo, or you're going to be flashing somebody in the face with that. Now, the live mode, I actually made a tutorial before on how to turn this off because it was like buried in the settings, but now you can just turn it off right there. If we go over here to the timer, you'll have 3 seconds, 5 seconds, and 10 seconds. By enabling those, you'll see a timer up there in the corner. The flash will kind of like blink in the back to let you know there's a timer on, and then once it hits there, it's going to burst photos there to give you multiple different shots. This is going to be really good for those of you who don't have someone to take a photo of you or whatever, and you prop it up somewhere. It's going to be pretty good for you. If we go over here, different exposure ratings. Now keep in mind, when you do set an exposure, it tends to kind of stay there. So even if I take the camera out, I come back into the camera, you can see it's still brightened up. You want to click this guy right here, bottom right, and that's going to reset it back to the standard. Also, that macro mode is on auto right now. You can go ahead and click that to turn that off, and then it's not going to do a macro mode. Click it one more time, and macro mode does appear. So if you see a little flower, that signifies macro photography or close-up shots you're going to be taking on this phone. Now, most people know that you can just click the 2x here and the ultra wide like that. But one thing not everybody does is they don't zoom like this, but you can actually turn this kind of like you would be turning an actual camera lens. So you can see right there, you can pull in like this to get different millimeter ranges right there. And I will say that once you get past 2x, photos are still okay, but they don't look the best compared to before the 2x. So that's going to be the best. And you'll see it jumps a little bit there because that is hopping over to the ultra wide 13 millimeter lens. So do keep in mind that's the 2 different ways to zoom right there. Now, if we go over here and click this right here, let's talk a bit about the front camera before we get into the other modes. 18 megapixel, and this does have ultra wide lens. So it's going to be more of a square look here to fit more people in the landscape. By pressing this mode right here, it's going to fit much more into the shot. If you leave it like this and then punch like this, it's going to be a little bit more similar to the previous version iPhones. But click this where it shows a little icon of a little person right there, and you're going to get a lot more in the frame. Now, if we go ahead and click this up here, you'll see that you can click on auto zoom or auto rotate. So you can do that if you want to use center stage to fit everyone in. So the front-facing camera is a major improvement here for the iPhone 17. You could see by clicking this little moon icon, there's different auto modes and night modes. Also on the front-facing camera, you're going to get some of the same features. We're not going to go over all of them except the ones we didn't talk about. Styles, we talked about it in the settings menu, but you can tweak them here between amber, gold, rose gold, and you can actually see what you're framing and do the photographic styles right here. Also, if you go ahead and use this, it can bring it into different mode, but this icon right here will go ahead and reset this back to what Apple has it at default. So this is a really awesome feature if you want to get just like that perfect tone you're looking for in your selfies. Very nice. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing much else to speak of on the front facing camera. Let's bring it back to the back of this camera. So we're going to go over here now to video, and you can see up here it's going to signify which mode you're on. But if you go ahead and click up here, you do have two different options. One is going to be the change between resolutions or your frame rates. So you can do HD or 4K, and you have different modes in those options. Now, this is not the Pro, so you're not getting the 4K 120. So if you want that super slow motion, you got to go to those phones right there. But it's basically the same setup here in video. The only difference is you're going to see the action mode, which is basically turning your iPhone into like a little super steady GoPro-like thing. So you're going to get this very smooth panning and super smooth video with that mode on. So if you find yourself on a bike or moving quickly and you need that photo, the action mode will help you there. Also, you do have the, exposure right there as well. And then if we click here, you can do dual capture videos where you can use the front and rear camera. So that's a nice touch. We didn't used to see that on iPhone. It used to be only on the some of the competitors. So it's nice to see you can do a dual video capture on the iPhone. That can make for some nice content if you want to record yourself and whatever else you're recording on the go. Now, again, swiping over here, we'll go over to cinematic modes, and you'll see in cinematic, because you are tweaking it a little bit more professionally, you'll want to look down here to aperture. And as you go up, you're going to get less bokeh. If you come down, you'll get more blurry background. So you can tweak that yourself. I tend to just leave that in the normal mode, as it tends to know what it's doing pretty well, depending on the scene, but you can go ahead and tweak that yourself. Same thing here, you can do exposure. Now we come over to slow motion. You're going to see slow motion caps out at HD 240. So not the 4K and slow motion like on the Pro. That is one of the downsides of the base 17. Over here under time lapse though, you'll see you can only tweak the exposure. You can also zoom in on the time lapse or back it out. Now let's swipe over here and talk a little bit about portrait. So you can see under portrait, looks pretty similar to years past on the iPhone. You still have natural light, studio light, contour, stage, high key light, and high key light mono. So plenty of options here. Of course, you can use multiple lenses here. Doesn't look like we can use the ultra wide on the portrait, but still you can use the base and the zooming camera on here. So over here, you can do spatial video. You'll have to rotate the landscape to go ahead and do this. And that's pretty much, that's it. You got to be in the landscape mode for this. Now, a lot of people are not using that too much because those videos are not able to be viewed on a lot of devices, but it is going to be something for the future. And panel is pretty similar still. You'll just want to hold the camera, click the camera once, center the camera. I'm not going to be centered very well in this video, and you'll get yourself a landscape option. Also, within these newer iPhones, you do see a green light signifying the camera is on. If you go over here on video, once you start recording video, you might actually see a orange light as well, signifying audio is being taken on this phone. So that's the entire camera app. After learning about all of that, you should pretty much know what you want to do. Now, I'm going to show you how to take a really good photo on this phone. First of all, you want to make sure you're backed up into the area where the phone or whatever you're taking a photo is in focus. And you could use the grid lines to frame things and get things into frame a little bit better. That box is pretty huge. So we're going to use this silver iPhone 17 Pro, and we're going to place this into the rules of third on the camera. We're going to go ahead and leave the macro mode on because we're very close right here. A little bit of a shadow there. Let's go ahead and take that shot right there. And you can see very, very sharp results here on this camera, and we did frame that into the rules of third. So there's that triple camera beauty on the iPhone 17 Pro. But yeah, you can definitely see that the 17 is rocking a camera that is rivaling some previous Pro iPhones. Let's talk about the very last feature, the capacitive button camera control. So let's go ahead and open it here. Now you can take a photo quickly just by hitting it. And there is a little bit of a vibration that allows you can feel it. It's like a little haptic vibration, kind of like what you feel on a MacBook trackpad over there. And by double clicking it, you do have the ability to swipe through different modes, including camera, styles, and tonality. Now over here, you do have yourself zoom. So if we go to zoom, you can actually just swipe like this. And a lot of people do find this to be a little bit just too slow. Like they could just zoom easier with their pinch to zoom. So let's go over here. You can also change the depth. Now this could be pretty useful if you are framing on a tripod or something like that. But if you swipe over here to exposure, you can also change the brightness. Again, this is great for landscape users on a tripod, but I feel like most users are going to be faster just using the touch inputs versus this. I also didn't talk about the other thing you could do on this camera when it comes to exposures is you could just tap here and just change it like that. You can brighten it up right there. So we can also kind of hold that down to lock it. That's an autofocus lock right there. That means that it will only stay focused in on that one subject. And also you can pinch the zoom like that, which is probably the fastest for most users on the market. So let's go ahead and close this out and see if the camera does reset itself back to the way it was. So we'll go over here and we're still seeming to be in portrait mode. So let's get up out of there and we'll go ahead and take a shot and you can see phenomenal results. So at the end of the day, and then of course, we're not going to talk about the Photos app. That's the gallery. You know how to use that. At the end of the day, that's pretty much all you need to know about the camera on the iPhone 17 and how to use it. I explained pretty much all of the features here and basically how to use the camera control, how to use the application and everything that comes with this camera. So you've seen it's a pretty phenomenal system. I hope this helped you to decide if this is going to be the camera for you, but also if you already bought this phone, how to use this thing and kind of know a lot about it in depth. If you have any more comments, questions, concerns about your iPhone 17 camera, go ahead and drop them down below in the comments. Thank you for watching the More of Nick Ackerman channel, and I will catch you all. Be sure to be well, and peace.